We are here to live life lovingly. Reverend Emma Smiley, who founded the True Center back in 1934. I imagine we all have our own relationship to this phrase, live life lovingly. It is the essence of the True Center. It's our core philosophy, maybe even our dogma. Something we don't question, that we've all decided is important, to live life lovingly. If I were to live a life more full of love, what would I do? In any situation, I find myself asking, what would love do? Or rather, what would I do if I was full of love? When I approach life with this lens, I notice that I soften. My heart opens, and I have access to more compassion. So even when I know that there is a situation where there is conflict or tension, when I consider this opportunity, it's like alchemy. I could turn lead into gold just by tuning in to the question, what would I do if I was full of love? And so in this talk today about gratitude, what occurs to you? What occurs to you when you think about tuning in to the note, to the song of love? Is there something that opens in you where you feel that there is more gratitude available? 10 days ago, I was set to celebrate my birthday in Seattle with a couple dozen friends when Kevin and I tested positive for COVID. We were quarantined in our hotel room, and packing up to leave, I found myself overcome with grief. For all the friends I wouldn't get to hug and connect with while being back home and visiting. I had a really hard time finding the silver lining in that experience. And so I turned towards my sorrow and I allowed myself to weep and to really feel that loss. It's something that I've known from the people that have come before me is that they say the only way out is through, and that the point was to feel my feelings, to not suppress them, to not deny them, to not pretend that they weren't there. I can't shut off or deny what is actually happening. It's what's happening. It's what's real. And so my commitment to authenticity was greater than my adversity for discomfort. I think this is a really important point. My commitment to authenticity is greater than my adversity to discomfort. And that's what happened for you today, Tara. Your commitment to stretching into the unknown was greater than your fear of what it might be like to show up a couple minutes late. You set that aside because your commitment was greater than your fear. So I'm willing to take a step outside of my comfort zone in order to honor my true authentic self. Permission to be with the emotions that I'm actually having in the moment. That's what's real. And realizing that I'm doing that, I get to see that I'm breaking patterns of old thinking, of old beliefs that were bred in fear mentality. It's not safe to show my emotions, for example. My emotions are not welcome here. The win is recognition that you're doing something different than what you've always done. The win is changing my thinking. New thought. Change your thinking, change your life. So the win is in the recognition that you have control over changing a pattern, over doing something different. That's the beauty of this work. The goal isn't to not feel sadness. The goal isn't to always be happy. The goal is to give yourself permission to feel whatever it is that you're feeling and to not make it wrong. Learn from the emotional experience, because in it is you trying to tell yourself something. You're having the emotional reaction for a reason. There's information in there about what you care about. I want to talk about happiness for a minute. Anyone growing up at the Victoria Truth Center who attended the Children's Church of the Golden Key knows that we had an opening blessing that we read every week. And it started with, the most important thing in life is to be happy. And when you are happy, you make others happy. There's a ripple effect. It lived by this. Really took this to heart. It became my mission. Only the downside is that my adaptive child self decided that it was my responsibility to make everyone else happy. And that meant that I got really good at putting on a mask. Now, generally as a kid, I didn't need a mask. Being happy came easy to me. I had a really blessed life. So that's part of who I am, organically in my body. Just my default is happy. But as an adult, when my needs weren't getting met, I faked it. I've since learned that I'm not responsible for how other people feel. That's on them. What I am responsible for is what I do for me. It's up to me to monitor and regulate my own joy, to define what makes me happy, and to be willing to ask for it, to be brave enough, and to learn how to do it in a graceful way. Honor self, honor other. Anyone who attended my talk at the end of October, I reviewed the path to human connection is by following the 5 practices of authentic relating. The 5th of which is honor self, honor other. And I find that on this path of authentic happiness is an opportunity to tap into what it is you desire and what it is that you long for, and be courageous enough to give it a voice, to let it be known so that you can attract it and draw it to you. New thought is nothing more than the power of manifestation. The secret, the law of attraction. Whatever you put your attention on grows. So putting your attentions on what you desire and what you want in your life. There's a line from Brianna Wiest's book, 101 Essays That Will Change the Way You Think. And there's this part where she's explaining how people hold themselves back from real happiness. And she writes, "The path to a greater life is not suffering until you achieve something, but letting bits and pieces of joy and gratitude and meaning and purpose gradually build bit by bit. It's not like we just open a door and walk through to the other side where our life is rainbows. It's a practice. So digging in a little more to this notion of happiness, I want to actually read a passage from her book in the section that I just talked about. I think it provides a little more context. Most people don't want to be happy, which is why they aren't. They just don't realize this is the case. People are programmed to chase their foremost desires at almost any cost. It's just a matter of what that foremost desire is, and often enough, it's comfort or familiarity. There are many reasons people thwart the feeling of happiness, but a lot of them have to do with assuming it means giving up on achieving more. I'm going to come back to that, because I think it's easy to misunderstand that line. Nobody wants to believe happiness is a choice because it puts the responsibility in their hands. It's the same reason people self-pity, to delay action, to make an outcry to the universe as though the more they state how bad things are, the more likely it is that someone else will change them. Happiness is not a rush of positive emotion elicited by random events that affirm the way you think something should go. Not sustainable happiness, anyway. The real stuff is in the product of an intentional, mindful daily practice, and it begins with choosing to commit to it. So I want to circle back. There are many reasons people thwart the feeling of happiness, but a lot of them have to do with assuming it means giving up on achieving more. And I think, why would anyone want to give up on achieving more? But it suggests that in order to be happy, there's a component of contentedness. So one must then be content with their lot, with what they have. This is okay. This is enough. I am happy here. Therefore, I will not strive. I will not risk. I will not go out of my comfort zone. I will stay right where I am. And I think that's what she's speaking to here. So I think this path, this thing when she talks about sustainable happiness, the real stuff is the product of intentional, mindful, daily practice. And it begins with choosing to commit to it. So I think about the practice of gratitude. And so here in her writing, I find evidence that we choose happiness. That there's an active demonstration that is shifting our mindset and changing what it is we do on the path of finding more light in our life. And it begins with changing your thoughts. Change your thoughts, change your life. That's why we're here. So before I dive into this concept of happiness and what it is or how we find it, I told you a little bit about my experience of being sad. And upon my departure from Seattle, when I shared with a friend of mine how I was feeling, she said, well, of course, Sheri, of course you're feeling grief. It's a measure of how much you love. You feel grief at the same depth that you feel love. So this is the wisdom of my emotions. They exist to tell me something about what matters to me. And from this perspective, I found the thread of light the thread of light that I could draw on and pull it towards me and let this light fill my heart. And my sorrow was naturally replaced with love. How lucky am I to feel such depth of love for my tribe of friends. How lucky it is that I feel their love in return. Look at how full and rich my life is. So with Seattle in my taillights driving home to Canada, I found my silver lining. And it was because I was willing to feel my feelings that I was able to foster an attitude of gratitude. To expand the light and use it to guide me forward. A life filled with more joy. It's not shaming myself for the sorrow. It's allowing. It's through the allowing that I expanded into more love. Today marks the end of a 4-day Thanksgiving holiday for our American friends and family. And since Thursday, I've scrolled past hundreds of declarations of appreciations. Appreciations for their love and loyalty and acceptance from friends, their appreciation and acknowledgement of material things, maybe even offering gratitude for their foundational needs of safety being met, a roof over their head, food to fuel their body, or clothes to wear. Some even expressed gratitude for the stolen land that they live and play and eat on. But there seemed to be a lacking, a mention of gratitude for self, the way one of our members did today. How often have I stopped to be grateful for myself? What am I responsible for? Is the life that I am living now a result of my choices? Is your life that you are living a result of your choices that you have made over time? Can you not give yourself credit or appreciation on becoming the person that you are today? Wasn't it you who listened? Was it you who listened to a higher power, a wise self, an infinite source, God? Were you listening? And you made choices. And your life, as it is right now, is the result of those choices, whether you're conscious of them or not. So part of this talk is shining a light of consciousness into what we're doing behind the scenes, our core operating system. It's happening. And are we paying attention? If I can acknowledge that my thoughts, beliefs, and actions have led me to this place, whatever this place is, however I would define my life as it is right now, didn't I choose it? Did I choose the family I was born into? Is there such a thing as a soul contract? I don't know. But what I do know is that I'm grateful to the wisdom of Source and my willingness to listen that led me back to Vancouver Island after 30 years, to be closer to my family. And for this action, this commitment, I believe my destiny is unraveling. The difference that I can make can't be counted by numbers, but instead by the quality of impact that I can have on one person's life. There's a book called Ceremony that I've read from before, and there's a line on page 120 that reads, "You change the world by helping others change the way they see themselves. All things are expressions of the collective, and you change the collective one piece at a time." So that's what I'm up to. Ultimately, that is what my talks are focused on. If I had an objective, it would be to guide an individual to seeing the beauty of themselves, to better understand themselves. For knowing the beauty of who you are, you become more radiant. You become more accepting. And you become more loving and appreciative of others. I believe this is what leads to ailing the polarization of this world. My friend Danielle Laporte says, appreciation raises our vibration. The higher that we are vibrating at, the richer our life experiences are going to be. When we vibrate at a higher frequency, we magnetize that which we desire. This actually increases our capacity for gratitude. I see it as a beautiful, bliss-filled loop, like an up-leveling loop. So gratitude, it's more than a list of what we're grateful for. It's a lens, it's a way of seeing things. It's a way to see beyond the clouds and to find the beauty in everyday moments and everyday experiences. It's a filter of awareness that takes practice, like stretching a muscle. The path to feeling more joy is to fine-tune our awareness of appreciations. Danielle told me that basking is a healing power move. When was the last time you sat and allowed yourself to bask in the light that is your life? To sit in that sweetness and allow every cell in your body to be filled with that light. Man, it can do wonders for elevating your joy. So to receive more fully, to be in a state of gratitude, there's a few suggestions that Danielle offered on her podcast, and this is the gift that I would like to leave you with as I end my talk today. Be still and quiet. Find the place beneath the noise and theater of your busyness. Turn off the drama to know the truth. Practice basking. Receptivity is a spiritual practice. Last time I was here, I talked about the art of giving and receiving. The art of receiving, it took me a long time. I was nearly 50 before I learned how to receive unconditional love. This is a practice. In the meditation, I talked about absorbing your prana. This is life nourishment. Your breath, your life force energy. Pay attention to it. Always be seeing the beauty. Look for threads of light everywhere. and seek for what unites us, our commonalities, the sweetness and the grace. Receptivity to higher power creates your own inner momentum. So be still, be receptive, and you expand. All flow, no force. Thank you for your time and attention today. It's been an honor to talk to you.